Okay. Hi, I'm Don Patridge. I'm going to be presenting things you don't know that Google Mail might do for you. Anyway, one of the first things you'll need to do with Google is to learn how to change your settings. And if you're familiar with the window for looking at Google Gmail, one of the first places you're going to know to go to, or should be, is the gear to change how the settings are. Most of what we're talking about can be done through that, clicking on that and going to where you want to go. There's tons of things that you can do at that point. And we'll talk about that as we get going here. And so when you click on that, you can see up there, we now have actually 2 layers. It's getting bigger all the time because keep adding more and more things, because for one thing, they basically are trying to sell this as a whole G Suite, or Gmail, or Google Suite. And we'll talk about that at the end, because that Google Suite is what pays for you having to be able to use, being able to use Google Gmail, Drive, and other things for free, the businesses. So the Google Suite then is what businesses are buying basically, but you can get it. One of the things you don't, there's a number of things that you benefit from. You get more security possibility, and you are paying for it so you don't have to deal with ads, and they're not saving your personal information either. So anyway, so as you can see there, like for example, right now it's blue, it's on the general, and this is listing all the general things that you can do as far as changing what it does for you in that Gmail account. So one of the few things you can do with it, and they just added this one here not too long ago, and that's snoozing, snoozing emails, so that you can see them at a later date. You're not ready to look at them, you can do it tomorrow, an hour from now, 6 months from now, whenever you want it to pop back up to the top of the pile and to deal with it. Nudging. Now, my wife has asked me to take it and disable that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, because she doesn't like to be nudged as far as, hey, but what happens is that if it thinks that you haven't done something with that mail, in other words, it called for you to make a response or do something, and you haven't done that, then it's going to come up and say, hey, you might want to do this. And then hovering is the thing that just added new. You hover on the email, and it will pop up and allow you, one, to get the trash can, to delete it, archive it, and do anything else as you want with it, a number of things. And we'll show you some examples on that here shortly. And then the smart reply. This one has been added not too long ago, but it comes, bottom of the email then will have what you can reply back. In other words, you want to do it quick, save yourself time. Particularly with businesses love this, because there's 3 replies down there. Good job, or I think that's great, or go ahead with it, or whatever. So you just pick it and then say send. Or you can add more if you want to, or not ignore it, or whatever. So anyway, here's snoozing. So what you do then is pick the email. In other words, click on the box, the check box, and then you get the choices up at the top. And notice the snooze one looks like a little clock. And then you click on that snooze until, and it gives you those choices at first here. There's short distance, tomorrow, weekend, and then you can pick the date and time. Okay, so if you click date and time, now you can get right down to what exactly you want. Date, time, and whatever. So you can click on the month, date you want there. You can use the arrows to move it back and forth as far as the months and get your date changed up that way. You can change the time, and then when you're done with setting it, just save it. And then your email will pop up sometime wherever you decide in the future. Now, when it does, it'll say like that. You snoozed it for 3 days before you went back to it. So I decided, I don't want to deal with that, right now. Too busy getting ready for the meeting. So I'll snooze it for 3 days, whatever. Now, if you can do the same thing on your cell phone, okay? So that's the window that you get up there in brown, and you click on the 3 dots. And it gives you that window. Ah, come on. Stop. You doggone thing. Playing with my phone and that quit. Okay. All right. So then down there, it gives you that down here. So you can got a number of things. That gets snooze. And once you've done that, then you get the choices again, like you just in a different format that you saw when you were in your computer. And so you can tomorrow, weekend, da-da-da, or pick a date and time. Well, it does the same thing with date and time. And then the other thing is, if you decide you want to unsnooze it, you got the time suddenly to work on it, unsnooze it, and you go in there and click it that way after you've hit the 3 dots up the top. It's getting pretty consistent as far as for you to see the 3 dots and realize this is a way for me to do more with whatever program I'm dealing with. If you haven't seen that and used that, you know, that's coming in a lot of programs. You just know that 3 horizontal dots means you can go and you can do a number of different things. In this case, snooze, or mark it as not important, or mute it, or report it as spam, even, you know, print it, whatever. And then nudging. Well, we mentioned nudging here as far as apply. It won't apply it to every mail. And it's what it's looking for is like here, statements that say, can you please tell me, or when are you free for, or this type of thing. And then it sees that you didn't make a reply, it's going to come up with that nudge and say, hey, you need to do something with this. Like I say, it bugs the out of my wife. So I'm going to have to shut it off, and we'll show you how to do that later. If you don't reply to them, it nudges you to remind you to do something with them. Okay, and here it is. Again, remember, up in the corner, you go to the gear, and you go in and under General again, and scroll down until you get down to nudging, and then you can click to shut it off by unchecking it where the blue check marks are. So you can have, you know, it do 2 different things here as far as nudging, or none of them at all. So anyway, you may like that as a way of doing it. Okay, now here's what happens when you hover on that email. You get these little icons on the side, over here on the right side. You can archive it, you can delete it, you can mark it as unread, or you can snooze it. And that comes in handy. They've just added that delete. There's hovering just basically over there lately. I still find occasionally I'll go back up the top and use the trash can up at the top to delete things rather than this one over here. For some reason, it seems like, you know, it highlights across the listing, but sometimes I'm deleting the wrong one when I hit the trash can over here. Okay, so there's that. Now, the other thing where you can hover is who sent the email. Now, I'm hovering over my name, and it comes up with some other things. One, you can edit that contact. So, for example, the person came in, and you know, I don't know that I've got it for certain, or want to add some more information to that contact for that person. You can hit edit contact. And then you've got these other 4 choices. One of which is to send email to them right away. The next one is to schedule an event with them, as far as that's supposed to represent a calendar, like a desk calendar with a flip thing. And the next one then is this one to send a message to them using the message portion of Gmail that's built in now. Or you can hit and make it a video call, which is also built in now. So it used to be, the video portion used to be called basically Google Voice, and now they've combined it all together in one big thing. Okay. Smart replies in Gmail. Suggest a response. We mentioned that earlier. Down at the bottom, when you get them, the short phrases, da-da-da-da, and their AI determines what they think would be appropriate. And it may be awesome, it may sounds good, and let me know, or something like that, you know, type of thing. So here's an example, one that came in, and so down below you see there's 3. It works, got it, yes, I got your email. So if you just want, you know, just to let them know that you got the email, click on that, and then tell it to send it. Now, there's experimental features that Google's doing all the time. And they used to be Google Labs. I used to go to Google Labs and see all the new things they were trying to do, whatever. Now they've changed it. So now it's called Google Advanced. So if you go into the kick the gear, you're going to look for Google Advanced, not Google Labs. And so as a result, to enable Google Labs or Advanced, you go into Gmail and you hit your gear up the upper corner, and then you look for Google Advanced, and it should end up in that second line. If you looked earlier, were the ones when we showed that, clicked on theirs on the gear, it's down in the bottom line of those two lines on the far left. And then it shows, once inside, it shows us what's available with a brief explanation of how it's done. So anyway, there it is. Notice there's two lines, and there's Google Advanced lit in blue, and you can scroll down through. And this particular screenshot shows what I've checked off as enabling to do on that. And oops, I think I forgot what I wanted to do here. So we're going to go to my Google account, Gmail account, I should say. And we're going to scroll on down through, and you can see there's templates and multiple inboxes, right side chat, so you move your chat window into the box over to the right side instead of on the left, and unread message icon, and so forth. So that's Google Labs or Google Advanced now. Okay. There's also add-ons. Now, most of these, I think you're going to find, are not going to be free. These are add-ons that you're going to find that you're more likely to want to pick them if you're using a particular app or want to make Google do something that you're already doing. So you go to again to the gear. In this case, you can see its add-ons are down just to the left of Google Advanced we just talked about. And you can click on the add-ons. So let's go take a look at them. And if you're one of these that likes to really doll up things, decorate and so forth, and you think you need to have pretty flowers or trees or whatever, you can get those. Oops, wait a minute. Did I get the right one? Yep, I think I did. Okay, so here's 3 of them, the examples. You just click on them. They've got ratings by stars, what people think of them. Basically for different programs. I don't know if anybody's using Slack, but you can get that one for use with Slack on your Gmail. Dropbox, if anybody's using Dropbox, that goes with, you can fire your emails right to Dropbox then, to kind of keep track of them. What's some of the other ones here? Oh, Evernote, if you're using Evernote, that can be used, again, firing emails and so forth, and Box. So those particular 3 are good ones for somebody you want to fire an email to that. Let's see if there's anything else here that I remember as being. Well, there's one like AnyDo in it, and that's looking at your emails and deciding you want to add a to-do list. You can say, fire it to AnyDo and make my to-do list type of thing. So. Anyway, that's that particular add-ons. Now, this is what I find interesting. You can have an infinite number of emails in Google Mail. And you go, what? How can I do that?
I love this feature.
What?
I said I love this feature.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's some real neat ways of solving some of your problems and whatever. By adding a dot before the @ sign, you can change it so that somebody thinks that's your same mail, but no, it's not. You still get it, but if you see it coming from somebody that you gave it to, you know, or if it comes from somebody else and you only gave it to one other person or business, comes from somebody else, you go, you just sold my email information to somebody else. So you can filter things, use it, only for, add the dot and say, give that only to businesses. Anything comes in, you can create a filter. We'll talk about that here in a second. And put it in a separate part of your inbox so that you can know when to go there if you want to look at stuff that came from businesses. Or add a plus. Now, a plus, you can actually add a whole bunch of word situations to it. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more in specific. You can use any of the tweaked, and it'll take you to the same account, same email, same contacts with that changed by adding a period. And you can have more than one. Just ignores the pluses and the dots. And it's the same account. So simply not there. It just ignores them. And you have to remember, it's got to be in front of the @ sign. You put it behind the @ sign, not going to work. And so here's some examples. My business, my period, business period, da 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 da. And then you look down here, some other variations, the same thing. All of those end up at the same email site, same contacts, whatever, by just changing those. Some websites, and I didn't get any particulars from that yet. I'm thinking, but I couldn't prove it, thinking that if anybody's going to rule you out of doing that variation, it's going to be a bank institute, a financial institution. They're not wanting somebody to come sneaking in with a variation or whatever. So that might be the case. Just remember that, it has to be in front of the @ sign. And it should work on most websites then. But it won't work with 2 periods in a row. Let me correct that a little bit. It will work with 2 periods in a row if you want to go there. You can't give it to anybody else and have them send something you do. It just won't work for 2 periods. Okay. Then, again, some more examples. And just remember they have to be in front of the @ sign. Now, let's talk about the plus sign and what you can do. Man, this gives you, we were talking about the periods and you saw all the examples. Now, add this period to it and add the plus sign and you get all sorts of possibilities. Again, it's just a syntax change. Pluses being ignored. Got to be at the end of the user before the @ sign. Okay? And so you can literally add other words to your address so it actually looks quite different. For example, joeman@gmail.com. Okay? So there's some examples. Joeman plus, more text. Joeman plus, that's my name. Joeman plus, love hunting. So you could literally say it's a cheap man's domain email. So if you got a domain like my wife does as far as for her tins, she could go Connie plus tin site or whatever. And people then she'd know and filter anybody coming that had that listing, she'd know that's coming from somebody that's dealing with her. She gave it to because of her tin site she wanted to. So that's some examples that do that way. So why would you get? Well, we've been talking a little bit about that. For one thing, get more than one email account, one account. It might be financially advantage to you to have 2 accounts there or more accounts, and you might get more cash because, you really kind of cheat the system is what it amounts to by having 2 to 3 or more accounts at that website or whatever, or business. But again, we mentioned also a way of checking to see if somebody's selling your email information. And unique addresses for companies you've not contacted, something shows up, somebody gave it out. And then you can set up your Gmail filters. And this is another thing that's nice as far as the filtering capabilities in Gmail. You can filter into a different portion of your inbox situation. You can set it up so only certain things go there. You can have a family member have a separate, anything coming from Joe goes into this box. Anything coming from Susie comes into this box. So you can go back and just, what has Susie sent me? What has Joe sent me? And look just only at their emails, not have to go back through everything.
If you need to set up, if you need a quick and easy way of setting up an account, like say for a child or something, or like say you want your kids to have access to something, for example, you can do, my email address plus kids at
Yeah.
gmail.com, for example, and you can
Yeah,
use
I
that.
hadn't thought about that. That's a good
You
thing.
can get the emails and stuff from whatever you sign them up, give them access to online or whatnot.
Yeah,
So it can be kind of nice for that too, especially for younger kids.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's one way of, if you use parental controls and you screw it down for them when they're using it with their own account, you can give them an email that, specifically for them. And so, like I say, it goes into folders with only emails with that plus address. Okay, themes. Again, you want to doll things up. Again, go into the gear. You're going down here, pick themes. Now, you're going to see some wild possibilities here. We get it going here. Come on. Oh, there we go. So you can have the colored page pictures, so forth. Realize this is not going to all show because you got to have the text that you've seen previously on all emails. This shows all the different ones. Solid colors. There's the standard one. This default. That's basically what I'm using. And there's another version. It's called a high contrast. It looks basically like the standard default one. And then all these here. And to me, it's what you're willing to put up with a background distraction. I find a whole bunch of flowers and other corruption makes it hard for me to decide what I want. So here's an example of one where I just changed mine and put in this flowery cherry blossom background. Well, how do you feel about all the distraction? Maybe you don't want to have that. Here's one forest picture you saw. Notice how much you don't see. It's basically around the outside edges. So, you can do a colored background, a solid colored background if you want to have less of a distracted background. Pick one of the colors. If you want to do blue or purple or whatever colors they had solid, you can pick those, put them in there. And say you don't like the Gmail itself. You don't want that, what we just showed you. That you want to say, I want to have a Gmail account, but I don't want to have Gmail as far as look at it. I want to have it in my Mac. Guess what? Since it handles IMAP and POP, it'll bring in your favorite email as far as your Gmail into that account. So if you want to bring Gmail into your Apple account, Apple Mail app, you can do that. And so it fits most standard ones, which means Outlook, Thunderbird, Mac Mail, whatever. And again, you go to the gear, set it up here on how to get it. You've got to know your particulars. What are you dealing with? What kind of email account do you have? Do you have it as a POP or IMAP? And then you have to set and check it accordingly. And then you have to go to your site for like Apple Mail or whatever and set it up to accept this stuff coming from Google that you're telling it at this setup to send to them. And notice you can limit what you send to them and how it's handled and kept, on their site, on Google site, and not deleted or keep it deleted, whatever. Notice it also is about learn more. And you're probably going to have to learn more in order to be able to get it set up to work that way. The other thing is, I recommend, and I do this with a lot of people over at Ridgecrest, is import that account, your Apple account, into Gmail. Then you've still got them all together like you would the other way, but you're doing it in Gmail. And you're bringing in anything. And why? Bring it in all in one place. But this is why I do this, because I have more people that come up and say, I'm having trouble with my email. I can't get mail, but I can send or whatever. And I turn to them and I say, you've got that, don't you? They said, yeah, how did you figure that out? I said, because that's a typical problem. And when they go down, if you got it in Gmail, everybody else in town that's got Mediacom can't get a single thing. But if you've got it coming into Gmail, you can see your Mediacom email, you can answer your email and not have to worry anything about it. So it's one of the neatest factors for somebody that solve your problem with Mediacom email, because they got one of the crappiest email programs you can think of. Well, the next step down, or next step up, as far as I'm concerned, is AOL. And you can bring AOL into also. And as you can see here, import email. Here's a website or address. And this LifeWire. LifeWire, I don't know, I'm getting so I like going to that site. I used to go to Kim Commando. I go to LifeWire. Heck with her. This has got, talking about how to set it up and import things in as far as from AOL. But the thing you want to remember too is, oh shoot, I did it again. Is it may take days to get that stuff drug over from AOL, part of your old emails and whatever, and get it set up and working right. Now, the other thing that's nice about Google emails is that if somebody sends you a website, a URL address, or sends you an email address, it's going to identify it, and it's going to make it a link, active link in your mail. And so you can click on it and go immediately to that website, immediately to the email that they gave you. There's nothing to do to enable it though, and to see it, it'll detect the pattern and do something as far as the link and make a link to it. And now, I did this specifically with Keith because I was concerned about somebody's address being out on there. So in this case, Carrie B. Monte's address, email address, and so forth, I blocked out. But that's ordinarily her addresses and so forth. Email address would be there, but I blocked them out. And since Keith is not showing anything as far as that, so anyway, here's like a website to go to. There'd be her email addresses there, another website, so forth. So you're going to see that built right in also. That's nice. And so boom, you can head right there. It's going to save you time. If you want to go to the website they recommended you go to and look at this and that, it's going to be in blue. Used to be numbers, phone numbers and street addresses, and they've done away with that. I think part of that is, you remember back when we talked about hovering. If you hovered the name of the person that sent it to you, if they've got it, it's going to be there. They may have their phone numbers, it may have their other information. If Google's figured out what it is, it'll pop up there, particularly when you go to edit the contacts. It may bring that information automatically in so that you can put it in their contacts. So that may be the reason why it doesn't have it in here anymore, as far as a possibility this way. Okay. Sending your emails from your domain, we're working at. It's basically a paid service, so I'm not going to do too much more than that. But as I mentioned, you could do that with that plus. You could go Patridge plus and then your domain name at gmail.com. It's just that it won't give if you go and buy service from the Gmail G Suite, then you can put a domain name in there. But this way you can have it designated as being an email for your domain site. Okay, you can send and receive video hangouts from your email. Integrated, as far as integrate in, as far as in terms of video, it's the old, and then calling and so forth and whatever. It's all been combined. It used to be Google Talk, as we mentioned. And hangouts are instant messages to your contacts. You can get it in voice and video calling from the handouts. And you look for it down in the lower left-hand corner, down there. And as you can see, my account name is up there, right up here. And then one of the first contacts I've got is my son right there. And then you can also say, well, I want to get started looking at somebody particular, or I want to make a call or otherwise, or chat. You can go there. And that doesn't say much more. But here it shows you can drag it up. It said, and then you can hit the plus sign to see more contacts and start new conversations or calls. And in this case, it pops up. And again, what I did is I blocked out the emails for people, just because we're going to be broadcasting this. But you can see what I mentioned earlier, if you hit this contact, you may come up with that Keith's address and phone number and so forth if they've got it. But then you can do the usual, email, check on a calendar situation, or message them or do a video. All you have to do is click on it. There's actually a website for Google Hangouts. Well, come on, you're supposed to go there. Didn't I get that? Fiddle. Anyway, well, we'll show you later. But there's also, if you suspect something is happening, you might be interested in this, and that is if your mail's not going through or not working right, you can click on the Gmail G Suite status board, and even Apple's got something like this, but this shows you whether Gmail's down. This is a period of time from the 13th to the 19th that I grabbed off there, and whether Google Drive's working or Google Docs or Google Sheets, all down through here, nothing was down, because you can tell they would have been either a service disruption or service outage, red spot up in there under the day and opposite whatever it was that wasn't working. So that's, if you think something's not working right in Google for the particular thing, go to this site and you can find out if things are working for you. One of the things I found out, you can use Google offline, but you're going to have to add Chrome to your computer because it won't work with Firefox. It doesn't have all the whiz bangs. I think the reason it's not available in Firefox is they want to have it a little more secure than Chrome's got it. I didn't try specifically to see what happened with Safari, but if it say that, but I'm thinking it would be the same way. But if you want to work offline, if you're you're going out in the boonies somewhere and you want to, it will save and you can work with them. You can reply to the emails. They won't go anywhere. And then when you get back to get an internet connection in some way, whether Wi-Fi or otherwise, it'll start sending them out and bringing more of the new ones back in. So it's nice to be able to do it offline if that's one of the things you want to do. You can schedule your emails. My wife is doing that now. She's got a prayer group for the church. And so on Monday after the church service, she sends out the Community Heartbeat newsletter that was handed out at church. So everybody gets it whether they were at church or not if they're a part of the prayer group. So she just puts it in and says, send it on Monday at such and such a time and so forth. So where do you do that? Well, down here in the corner, lower left. Notice a little downward delta sign there. You click on there and that gives you all sorts of choices. It's like the schedule, when to send. Again, this looks a little familiar. You've seen this previously as far as, pushing things out, whatever. You can go through the choices or you can start picking the date and the time you actually want to do it. And if you do that, then you see that window we talked about earlier, where you boom, 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 you can be real specific and then finally schedule it. And send it. You pick a date. Now, ever thought about unsending an email? It'll do this for you too. Now, what you do again, get that gear and you go in to settings, general, scroll down here to where it says unsend, and you got 4 choices. If you think you can oh, I don't want to send that, within 5 seconds, boom, you can use that. If you want to give yourself a little more time, give it 10. Or if you think, well, I may not want to, so you can leave it 30. And then what you have to do is when it comes up after you've sent that email, you get this notice in the lower left-hand corner. Now, you've got the choice of what you want to do. It says, I've sent the mail, but you can undo it, the first choice there, beyond that, and then you can view your message, but you can hit the X and just say, I don't want to see that anymore. I've sent it, I don't care about it. But hit the X. Okay? So I don't know if anybody, if you've ever wished you could, if somebody made a mistake If you're one of these that fast typers or otherwise, like my wife is doing things fast, every once in a while, and she sent it by mistake. This way, if she sets it at 30, or whatever, she can hit boom and call it back. Okay, so I've been mentioning it before, but the whole package that Google's got now is called the G Suite. And it offers intelligent office and productive apps. And so if you want to say Microsoft, what do they call it, the productive app for them as far as a suite? What is theirs called? Microsoft Office. Okay? And so what are some of the things they've got in it? They've got Excel, they got Word, they got PowerPoint, this type of thing. Well, guess what? They got everything you can think of. Doesn't cost you a cent unless you buy the whole package like with this. So typically people are thinking about mail, Gmail, and cloud for storage. You can get, I think it's 15 gigabyte for free to store all your emails and store all your other stuff on. If you buy the package, deal with them, you can get more. Basically more functions, different levels of advanced functionality, depending on what package you get. You get all the apps that you can get for free, but you get more capabilities also. Basic paid unit for these is 30 gigabytes for storage. Now you can step up a little more. If you get 5 people or more, you can get a terabyte. I think that's for each one of those 5 people in that group or whatever. Plus advanced search and security options for paid plans also. So just because they consider you a company, now they're going to give you more. And the other thing is they'll give you less because you don't see the paid, you don't see the ads anymore. And they're not tracking what you do as a company or whatever. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't use it as an individual too. So the free users see the ads while paid users don't. So this is where they make their money with the free people because they see what you're doing as far as in the free portion, whereas advertisers are getting that benefit, so they're paying Google. Otherwise, if you buy the end of the suite, they don't have that. And you also get your custom domain name. So me at mydomain.com, you get that as part of your package. And get more of administrative tools for theirs also that you wouldn't get. So Google Drive depends on how much storage you get in the clouds. Docs, spreadsheets, and slides. What is slides? It's like PowerPoint or Keynote. And now they just announced their slides are going to be able to add sound to them. So they've just done that in the last few days. And then Google Calendar, that's all tied in. Remember we had some of these things that popped up and said you click on it and you could put into your calendar a date that came through your email or this type of thing. Hangouts and Meets, you can set up times to chat with people and so forth as far as the back and forth. Video chat, as well as meeting with a message and so forth. And that's basically it. Anybody got any questions that you want to ask one way or the other here?
Since you're doing that, are you buying something?
I'm not buying anything, no.
Oh, okay.
Nope. So if you had a question, have Keith toss you the mic. For a long time, I was having trouble with Dave sending me reports as far as the attendance sheet. He'd send it in Microsoft.